Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And this video is just an introductory observation, introductory response to Israel's attack on Iran, which is continuing. There is more to come later as we're able to understand the situation in a more mature way. But there are so many around the world who are impressed by Islamic eschatology, a branch of knowledge which appears to be scorned by mainstream Islamic scholarship, or ignored by mainstream Islamic scholarship. But there are so many who are impressed by the credentials of Islamic eschatology, and they are looking to me for a response to what has happened in Iran. And I want to, first of all, apologize. I have the flu, and I'm taking antibiotics because there's an infection in the throat, and I also have a cough. So kindly bear with me in my illness. And secondly, that I am about to fly tomorrow to Indonesia, and I will be in Jember for the next 2 weeks. I look forward to going to Jember. I hope get some rest. I badly need some rest. But we'll be having sessions every morning after I have rested for a few days, and every afternoon. And there are many who will come from many different parts of Indonesia to share with me the time in beautiful Jember. So until we meet in Jember, inshallah, I look forward to a little bit of rest. Now then, the first implication of what has happened in Israel's attack on Iran, in my opinion, from the perspective of Islamic eschatology, that we have arrived at a defining moment in history, when the movement of history is changing, when a Pax Americana, which has been receding, is now giving way, whether they like it or they don't, whether Trump understands or he does not, is now giving way to a Pax Judea, which is for the first time publicly proclaiming its intention to become a ruling state in the world. We have been explaining this subject 25 years ago in Jerusalem in the Quran, where we advanced the thesis that a Pax Britannica did not emerge in a vacuum, did not emerge by accident, that it was meant to prepare the way in a process of three stages, from Pax Britannica to a Pax Americana, which would prepare the way for what is now taking place, the eventual emergence of a Pax Judea, where the state of Israel will now seek to rule the world, in order that someone might stand up in Jerusalem and declare to the Jewish world and to mankind, I am the Messiah. They don't teach this subject in the departments of political science and international relations. No, this subject is not taught. We have to teach the subject. That he wants to stand up in Jerusalem and declare, I am the Messiah. And those who lack the capacity to understand what's happening will accept him as the Messiah. But not the world of Islam, which will recognize him to be Al-Masih Dajjal, or the false Messiah, and not that part of the Christian world which has not betrayed Jesus, and which will recognize him to be the Antichrist. But that is not taught in academia. So now then, We have anticipated this day in Jerusalem in the Quran, which was published 25 years ago. That book has become a bestseller, and now it is likely to continue being a bestseller because that book is explaining the essence of what is now happening in history. If scholars are of the view that they are faithful to the Quran, if they believe that they are correct in their explanation of the Quran, then I am recording this video to send a message to the world of Islamic scholarship, and I'm not doing so in any arrogant way. I'm doing so in a very polite way and a scholarly way. That the Quran declares of itself that it is absolute truth. No scholar of Islam dares to differ with that. If the Quran is absolute truth, and if the Quran says that it explains all things, tibyanan likulli shay, then can you deny that the Quran will explain the movement of history? Please answer me. Instead of shutting the doors of the masjid to me, as they have done in Malaysia, you should answer me. Is the Quran not claiming that it explains all things? Well then, would the Quran not explain the movement of history? Would the Quran not explain what is happening in the world at this time when Israel is flexing her muscles and showing all signs of being willing to defy the world? Defy the United States, defy Europe, defy traditional friends, defy China, defy Russia, defy all of mankind. And Israel will act as Israel chooses to act. And I want to just read to you now what I have written on the subject. This is briefly an introductory comment. That Israel's daring, unprovoked, and very public attack on Iran's missile manufacturing, as well as nuclear plants and other Iranian military establishments, and the assassination of such senior military personalities as the commander of Iran's elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the chief of staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, a general of the Armed Forces, several of the senior military personalities, in addition to 7 senior nuclear scientists. All of this has presented to Iran, presented to Trump's USA, as well as the rest of the world, including Russia, China, the European Union, the world of Islam, sent a message, a very clear message, publicly proclaimed that Israel will not submit to any law, including the United Nations Charter and international law. Israel will submit to none but Israel. The implication is that the world must now recognize that Pax Judea has arrived, and hence that Israel can now be expected to act in the manner of a state which wants to replace USA in the same way as the United States replaced Britain as a ruling state in the world. We anticipated this passage to Pax Judea when we published our best-selling book entitled Jerusalem in the Quran some 25 years ago. Since Iran responded to the Israeli attacks with the usual barrage of missiles against Israeli cities, while nuclear Pakistan has remained, at least publicly so, silent. We can now witness a continuation of attacks on Iran until Israel is satisfied that Iran cannot possibly become a nuclear power anytime in the near or intermediate future. This, I am suggesting, will be the first demonstration of the new world order of Pax Judea. The military expert will now have to examine the question whether there was a link between the recent act of terrorism in Kashmir, which provoked a reckless Indian military attack on innocent Pakistan, and Israel's present equally reckless attacks on Iran. Was it possible that war between a warmongering India and Pakistan was meant to probe Pakistan's military capacity to assist Iran in defending itself from an Israeli attack? Did the Israeli Mossad plan and execute the act of terrorism in Kashmir in order to provoke war between India and Pakistan? Every Kashmiri Muslim believes that. And I am now confirming to them, you might be correct. If this is so, it would indicate India's role in the new world order would be that of a strategic ally of Israel. But that's not new news. After all, it is now clear that the swarms of Israeli fighter aircraft could not have flown through Syria and Iraq to launch their devastating and highly successful attacks on Iran had preparatory work not first been done in both Syria and Iraq. The world can now better understand that Israel's use of the bogus jihad that toppled Assad's regime, the bogus jihad that toppled Assad's regime, cleared the way for Israel to destroy Syria's air defense capabilities and open Syria's skies for the Israeli Air Force to attack Iran. Let me repeat that. The world can now better understand that Israel's use of the bogus jihad that toppled Assad's regime cleared the way for Israel to destroy Syria's air defense capabilities and open Syria's skies for the Israeli Air Force to attack Iran. Islamic eschatology recognizes that Pax Britannica and Pax Americana were both created and have both functioned to clear the way and prepare the world for Pax Judea. And so the world is now likely to witness a future in which Jerusalem will increasingly lead the way, while Washington, London, and the European Union can do no better than to toe Jerusalem's line. This ominous movement from Pax Britannica to Pax Americana and to Pax Judea, let me remind you, was explained some 25 years ago in my best-selling book entitled Jerusalem in the Quran. The world must now ask this question: will the United Nations survive a Pax Judea? What are the long-term implications for Iran of this dramatic evidence of the emergence of Pax Judea? Let us now attempt to answer that question. It is not possible for any critic to dispute the fact that nuclear power functions as an effective deterrent to the threat of aggression by hostile forces. If Iran had a nuclear deterrent, a warmongering Israel would not have dared to attack in such a way as it has done. And had Russia not become the most powerful nuclear power in the world today, and had nuclear Russia not established a line in Venezuela that a warmongering Washington dared not cross, regime change would have taken place in beleaguered Venezuela long ago. The Iranian religious scholarship has consistently argued that the development and use of nuclear weapons in warfare is haram, i.e. legally prohibited by Islamic law. We respect the Iranian view, and we find that there is much moral substance in support of such a view. But the time has come for us to remind Iran that the Quran has demanded plainly and clearly that power must be developed to the extent where it can function as a deterrent. This is Surah Al-Anfal, verse number 60. وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. That you must build power so that power can function as a deterrent. We are now of the view that it is time enough for Iran to change her position on the development of nuclear power, and we anticipate that this view from the Quran, that Iran must build nuclear power so that it can function as a deterrent, will eventually now prevail in Iran, and we look forward to that. The world may now witness, therefore, Iran withdrawing from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but it may take some time because Iranian Islamic scholarship may not want to change the position so easily. But we are now of the view that public opinion in Iran will eventually force such a change, and therefore that Iran will have to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and that Iran will build such a military alliance with Russia that would ensure Iran's capacity to eventually acquire deterrent nuclear power. Since Russia would not submit to Pax Judea, and the evidence for that has emerged spectacularly so over the last 1.5 years as genocide has taken place in Gaza. Since Russia would not submit to a Pax Judea, Iran can succeed with Russian help in becoming a nuclear power. And if that happens, the implications for Israel will be very grave indeed. This is simply an introductory comment from me on the implications of Israel's attack on Iran, and I thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.